Hey guys, what's going on? It's Don here from Nova Spirit Gaming, and today we are going to be prepping our Linux system for gaming. Now, what I mean by prepping is we're just going to pre-install the applications that we usually would use for gaming, as far as like Lutris, Wine, and Steam. So let's get started. Now, this video is actually going to be a base video for what I'm going to be referring to in the future. So when I do install games and I have the programs pre-installed like Wine and stuff like that, you could always reference this video as your guideline to setting up your system. So I don't have to redo those Wine setups and all that stuff during the installation of each game that I'm trying to get installed. So to get started, I am using Pop! OS. Now, Pop! OS and another operating system that I found to be super easy to get gaming working was Manjaro. So these are the two I recommend for gaming. But you could definitely use like Debian or Ubuntu or even Elementary and stuff like that. They all work. It's just I found the easiest to get everything set up and ready was Manjaro and Pop! OS. Don't know why. They have a lot of pre-installed libraries that just work. So obviously the first thing you want to do is update the system. Make sure you have the latest repositories. So when we're downloading stuff, we don't have a mix of wrong versions. So the first thing I'm going to start installing is Vulcan before I even install Steam. Now this is recommended by the Valve software, which is Steam, to install the Vulcan drivers. I'm just going to go to their website and I'll leave all the links down in the description below. Now I'm using AMD for this build. You could always use NVIDIA, which is up here. All you have to do is install their drivers. And if you're already on Pop! OS or Manjaro, you could even skip this step because the drivers will be pre-installed. So I'm going to paste the Vulcan 4 AMD drivers. They're going to ask me to do a distro upgrade, which I did earlier. So I don't need to do that. I'm just going to skip that. And I'm just going to go straight into installing the Vulcan drivers itself. It's going to cost about 103 megabytes and shouldn't take that long, especially on my system here, which is AMD Ryzen 1700. And I'm using RX 570, a little bit older on the graphic card, but still relevant today. It's not a bad graphic card. It's comparable to like a 1060, you could say. All right, now that that's installed, I can move on to the next step, which is installing Wine. Now, Wine is very important to get any games going for Windows because it's basically running Windows software in Linux. So I have a little tutorial here that I put together. It's actually taken from Ubuntu handbook.org, and I'll leave a link down in the description for that. I'm just following basically their steps. I'm going to copy and paste this DPKG and add the architecture of i83. Add the Wine key right over here on the bottom. And add this little line to add to my repository. So now when I do an apt-get update, Wine would show up. So next up, this is the most important bit, which is installing this little repository called SDL2 backport. This will install F-Audio, and F-Audio is required to run a lot of Windows games, and it's licensed, so that's why you can't just get it from the regular repository. After downloading that, we don't have to download any extra software. When this next step will actually download everything for you. Now, sudo apt install, I can't type today. Install recommends will install all the stuff that you need. Wine HQ. You got to remember to put the HQ in there because if you don't put the HQ, it's going to install the Wine from the default repository. So put Wine HQ, and we're going to install the development branch. Now, development branch will give you 5.1 in this video, but it will get you the latest version of Wine. This will be 1,600 megabytes. Wow. Installed. Once that is done, we basically have Wine working, and we could test that out in a second. But keep in mind, now getting games to work in Linux has its quirks. Now, you got to keep in mind that certain games have anti-cheat enabled, and there are chances that installing that specific game for Linux might void that and might possibly get you banned. Now, not all games do this. Certain games do. I'm not exactly sure which one. So do your research on that game before you decide to, hey, I'm going to switch over and use this for Linux only. Now, I mostly play a lot of creative games like Space Engineers and stuff like that. That doesn't really have that type of back channel where I would get banned. But I'm guessing if you play, say, maybe Warframe or PUBG or something that has like a competitive stance to it that might have some anti-cheat going on that might possibly get you banned. So this is a little bit of a disclaimer. Do that research first before deciding to get that game installed on Linux. All right, now that Wine is installed, to test this out, I'm going to do Wine CFG just to create the initial directory for Wine. Install the mono. A lot of games use mono and a lot of programs use mono, so I usually just pre-install Wine mono installer. All right, once this starts up, you are all set. Wine is installed, didn't have much of a problem. Next up we do need to get is Winetricks. Winetricks is a huge part of Wine to install specific window libraries. So I usually go to Winetricks, I Google that, and go to WineHQ to grab it. Now there is a Git that allows you to auto update and everything, but I don't usually go that route. I don't know why. I'm just gonna grab that chmod plus X to turn it into executable Winetricks. Now sudo and move this to my bin directory. Okay, now that Winetricks is installed and I know it's working, next up is to install Steam. Now since PopShop has it, you could just type in Steam and it will actually install the Steam loader, which is more than enough for us. All right, once that is done, let's boot it up for the first time. This way it'll install the installer and all the other stuff that it needs to fetch. This will take a few minutes, so I'm just gonna let that go. In the meantime, we are also gonna install Lutris. Now Lutris is a platform that it's a lot of scripts that everybody put together to get the game working. So it's really easy to get a specific game working if it doesn't work for Steam already. So imagine you're trying to look for a specific game, say like Space Engineers, right? Even though I don't follow these steps, it is good to know how they did it. And there is also an easier way to get games working. So here I'm going to search for Space Engineers on top right. You see how the game comes up? And you could actually just hit install and it'll download everything you need through Lutris to get this specific game working. So Lutris is huge for the gaming community right now just to get specific games working, like Overwatch or whatever. It'll just pre-download, get everything working, get the specific version of Wine and load whatever it needs to load to get that specific game working. So I'm gonna head over to download and you see how it has steps for Lutris and that Steam finally finished. I'm just gonna follow these steps, paste it back into my console, and sudo apt install Lutris. 175 megabytes, that is fine. And now when we're waiting for that, we could get Steam working wherever it's hidden, somewhere behind here, right here. I'm gonna log into my account and show you guys, oops. I'm gonna log into my account. All right, now that Steam's up and running, first thing you wanna do is head over to settings and you want to go to Steam Play and enable Steam Play for all other titles. It's gonna ask you to restart Steam and it's actually gonna start downloading Proton for Steam. And that's good because that's what you want. You're gonna notice your library grow because all the Windows games are gonna be allowed to be installed into your desktop, that's what you want. Now next we could test out Lutris because we just finished installing that. So we're gonna do Lutris. And the client is working. And all you need to do is, like I said, search for your game here. And it should be able to find the game that you want. And if you hit install, it'll install the script that will get the game to install, which is pretty interesting and cool. So I'm not going to show you any games in this video itself. It's just prepping the system beforehand. And we basically have everything that we need to move on to actually getting games to install. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you guys have any questions about this, hit it down in the comments below. And if you guys are new to this channel, consider subscribing. Also hitting that bell notification icon so you know when the next video is going to be out. And as I say in my nerd cave, hack till it hurts. I should probably change that because this is my gaming channel. I don't know yet. I still got to redo a new intro. I'm not really too sure. But yeah,